Feel that snap in the air? It's January. It's win or go home. And there are a few threads around this team right now that could shape the Chargers' entire path before the ball even gets kicked. One of them is happening behind the scenes on defense, and it's the kind of thing that tests focus when the lights get hotter. Another looks like a quiet roster note, until you realize playoff games don't stay clean. Then there's the bigger question. How do you protect Justin Herbert next season so we're not living on the edge every week? And to top it off, the other sideline just showed something you don't hand out lightly in this league. Real respect. Be honest, do you trust this version of the Chargers to walk into Foxborough and play their game? All right, if you're riding with both fam, hit like, subscribe, and jump in the comments as we go, because I already know this is going to split the room. Let's start with the storyline that begins as background noise, and then suddenly it's sitting in the back of your mind all week. Jesse Minter. The defense has been gelling, the identity has been sharp, and the league notices. There's talk, no shortage of it, that Minter is going to be a hot name when the 2026 head coach interview cycle ramps up. And here's the tricky part about the modern NFL. Coordinators have to do two jobs at once. They've got to coach the moment while their future is circling. We saw a clean example of how awkward this can get last offseason when Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore finished a Super Bowl run before taking the Saints job. That's the reality. But timing matters, and the league's assistant interview schedule is basically a shield for the Chargers right now. Minter won't be juggling interviews in the first week of the playoffs. Candidates from teams coaching in the wildcard round don't interview until the following week. Deanna Rossini laid out the schedule. The only playoff team assistants who can interview this week are from teams with first-round byes. This year, that's Denver and Seattle. The Chargers are playing Sunday Night Football against New England, which means the earliest Minter can even start interviews is January 13th. Let me say this, that's a big deal, because the Patriots' offense is not a nice matchup. New England was third in the NFL in yards per game at 379.4, second in points per game at 28.8, and they're led by one of the league's MVP frontrunners in Drake May. That's an offense that punishes hesitation. One soft spot in coverage, one missed leverage, one late rotation, suddenly you're giving up chunk plays and living in the red zone. So when we talk about Minter's recent approach, it's not cosmetic. The Chargers have been willing to play more man coverage, and that's basically a statement. We trust our pass rush, and we trust our secondary. But that also brings a big question into focus. Corner Dante Jackson's status looms large. Against May, you don't get to be half speed on the outside. You don't get to be unsure. You either hold up, or the quarterback turns your almost into points. And the reason this all feels so urgent is because the defense is peaking. In the last 6 Chargers games, they've allowed 20 points just once against Houston. And in the second halves of the last 4 games, they've given up only 15 points total. That's the kind of trend that travels. That's the kind of trend that wins a playoff game, even if the offense isn't perfect. Now, the uncomfortable truth. If the Chargers make noise in January, Minter is going to get flooded with interviews. That's how this works. But for this week, the focus is clean, undivided, and that's exactly what you want before facing the most productive offense you've seen in months. And while everyone is locked in on the big names, the Chargers made a small move that tells you they're thinking like a team that expects a game to get chaotic. Because here's what happened. The Chargers re-signed safety Marcus May to the practice squad and released center Josh Kaltenberger in the corresponding move. On paper, it's not flashy. In January, it's not meaningless. May is 32. He's a former second-round pick by the Jets back in 2017. He finished the final year of his 4-year, $6.554 million deal that included $4.134 million guaranteed in 2020. The Jets used the franchise tag on him in 2021, which cost them $10.5 million. Then his season ended after 6 games with a torn Achilles. That injury can change everything for a defensive back. He landed in New Orleans on a 3-year, $28.5 million deal in 2022, got cut after 2 seasons, then signed a 1-year deal with Miami. The Dolphins waived him in late November, and he was claimed by the Chargers. Since then, he's bounced on and off the Chargers practice squad. In 2025, he appeared in 1 game for Los Angeles and recorded 5 tackles. So why bring him back now? Depth and experience. That's it. No drama. No mystery. Playoff football is about surviving. People get nicked up. Roles change in a heartbeat. And the secondary is a place where one communication breakdown turns into a 30-yard gain and a sideline staring contest. Think about that for a second. Even if May never plays a meaningful snap, he's an insurance policy. He knows how NFL offenses try to stress your safeties. He knows how the week works. He understands urgency. And in a matchup where you're leaning into man coverage and trusting your back end, having another veteran voice in the room matters. And releasing Kaltenberger, it tells you the Chargers are making choices with Sunday in mind. They're prioritizing defensive flexibility and roster balance because this team is built, right now, to win through defense and quarterback steadiness. That's not a criticism. That's identity. Some fans are going to shrug at this. Others are going to read it as, we're preparing for the version of this game where everything gets tight late. And that's the version that decides seasons. Now, speaking of tight, let's talk about the thing that has made too many Chargers games feel like a knife edge this year. The interior offensive line. Because not every bet hits. The Chargers tried to get bigger up front by signing former Eagles guard Mekhi Becton, and the decision floundered. This season has been the worst campaign of Becton's career. Per Pro Football Focus, he ranks 79th among 81 qualifying guards after the regular season. His overall grade of 35.3 is almost 20 full grade points lower than his previous career low. That's not a minor miss. That's the kind of miss that forces you to rethink your entire approach to protecting your quarterback. And that's why a new mock draft from ESPN's Jordan Reed grabs your attention. With the 22nd overall pick, Reed has the Chargers selecting Alabama offensive tackle Caden Proctor. Though plenty of scouting opinions view Proctor as someone who could be best suited at guard in the NFL. Reed said he's talked with multiple scouts and the opinions are all over the place. Some think Proctor goes top 25 because of size and flashes of improved play, and several point to his upside at guard. And from the Chargers' perspective, that's the key. If the plan is to have bookend tackles Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt healthy and ready next season, then Proctor doesn't have to be a tackle right away. Put him inside. Let him be what he's built to be. Because Proctor is 6'7", 366 pounds, and what stands out is 2 things: the size and how he moves at that size. You don't see bodies like this every year, and when you hear the main knocks, change of direction and spatial awareness, the solution isn't complicated. Reduce space, tighten the work area. Let strength and explosiveness win against interior defenders instead of asking him to cover endless grass. The Chargers will likely look to improve the center position too, either in the draft or by finding a veteran in free agency. But after Becton was beyond replaceable, reinforcing the interior looks like a logical first-round direction. And if Proctor's not a clean tackle translation makes him slide a bit, he becomes more realistic where the Chargers might be picking, 19 or later. Nothing is guaranteed. It depends on how the board falls. But the message is clear. The Chargers can't keep asking Herbert to play hero behind shaky interior protection. You can survive that for stretches. You don't build a long-term playoff window that way. And while we're thinking about the future of protecting Herbert, the present is a reminder that the league doesn't see this Chargers team as a typical 7 seed. Because the Chargers enter the AFC wildcard round as a familiar outsider. As the number 7 seed, Los Angeles travels to Foxborough to face the New England Patriots, a team with one of the league's best records and the kind of home field confidence that shows up before kickoff. On paper, that tilts Patriots. But inside the league, the framing is more complicated. And Mike Vrabel made that clear this week. Speaking on the Greg Hill Show, Vrabel offered a direct assessment of what New England is preparing for. A physical football team. A big football team. Big linemen. A defense that's good and plays a very good style of football. And then he put the spotlight exactly where it belongs. Justin Herbert, saying the quarterback is as good as anybody and that it'll be a big challenge. That isn't comfort. That's caution. And it makes sense because the Chargers don't look like your usual lower seed. Los Angeles finished the regular season with 11 wins, and they collected wins over multiple playoff teams along the way. Their path wasn't built on flukes or late-season chaos. It was built on a defense-first identity and a quarterback capable of stabilizing close games. Herbert is still the central variable. Even when the Chargers are limited elsewhere, his arm talent and toughness keep games within reach. One drive where he's clean, one moment where the pass rush gets picked up, one shot downfield, suddenly the math changes. That's what Vrabel is acknowledging. Now, yes, the Chargers are underdogs. History hasn't been kind to number 7 seeds in the wild card round, especially on the road against a top team with home field advantage. That context matters, but so does matchup. Vrabel's comments suggest the Patriots are preparing for a game decided at the line of scrimmage, not by tempo or trickery. A physical contest where execution and discipline outweigh momentum. And honestly, that framing fits what the Chargers want. They don't need chaos. They need structure. They need the game to stay connected long enough for Herbert and the defense to influence the outcome. So when you stack it all together, Minter's rising profile but clean focus this week, the practice squad move that's really about January depth, the draft direction after the Becton miss, and Vrabel basically telling you this isn't a comfortable matchup, you start to see the full shape of it. This team isn't flawless, but it has an identity. It's physical. It's built to make games uncomfortable. And the defense is playing its best football at the right time. Now I want to hear from you, Bolt fam. Does this Chargers team have what it takes to walk in the Foxborough, keep it tight, and steal this game in the fourth quarter? Drop your take in the comments. Seriously, I want the real answer. And if you're riding with the Chargers, hit like and subscribe, because this postseason is going to test everybody's nerves.